Hi, Terry. I'm so excited to see you again today.
Yeah, me too. Thank you, Stacy. I'm excited to be here and see where we go today.
Yes, we were talking about so much that is coming up for us as we're beginning to meet and wanting to have these conversations and share them with basically the world. And we were kind of talking about our interest and curiosity about how we humans can be so focused on what we can see, feel, touch, hear, like all of the senses, and that stuff that goes beyond that, kind of for many of us, goes beyond what feels like comfortable or rational or reasonable. And so, as we just open up our conversation together today, seeing where that takes us in regard to our backgrounds, working as mental health practitioners, also connecting with energetic realms, spiritual realms, just going beyond just that human experience and bringing all of that together because that's what we're so excited to share with people, that there's so much more. And we're also, I'm going to say a little caveat, we're not saying, you know, don't allow the human experience, or don't, we're not saying judge it. We're just trying to bring in that there is so much more. So when we are struggling, which we're all struggling with some different things, and we're going to bring different aspects of our experience into this, that our struggles have been very much alleviated because we've gone beyond what we can just touch, see, feel, hear, and even what we think we know. So I would say that to start.
Thanks so much, Stacy. Really, like this conversation can go so many directions, right? Um, but really, I do think when the reality that we live in as human beings, right? Um, and as professionals, in the professional setting, in the medical and mental health professional setting, many times we come up against um, things that have to be proven, right? Through that see, touch, feel, research kind of based things. And I just really believe that we aren't giving credence to the things that happen beyond that. The things that happen in, what I refer to as the spiritual realm, and how those two things interact. And it's always funny to me when I am speaking with persons, not everyone, but persons from the scientific research community. And they make the comments of, well, but that can't be right because there's no way to prove that. It has to be proven through research, and you will not convince me of anything that isn't proven through research. And I find it really funny because what they will, and I use they, but it's not across the board. I just want to be clear, like for sure, not every person in research believes what I'm talking about. Some are more open-minded, but really, like they have proven quantum physics, right? The energy, right? That energy is flowing through everything. Energy is flowing in me, energy is flowing from me to you, to the trees to me. Like they've shown this. They show this. There is this little gadget that I used to managing my teams, right? I used to buy this little gadget so that I could show them physically, give them an example of how energy flows between everybody on the team. And it was this little light bar. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it was really like anybody can go on YouTube and just Google, right? This little light energy bar thing. And it had two metal ends. And so what I would do is I would take one end, I'd have somebody else take the other, and the whole circle would hold hands. And as we were holding hands, the light, and it would make a noise, the light and the noise would go off in this little bar. And if one of us, just one, it didn't have to be the two metal ends. If somebody in the circle dropped a hand, it stopped.
Mm.
And so that's a scientific gadget, right? It's showing us that energy flows through every single thing in the circle. And so science has proven this.
Mm,
Science can see this.
mhm, mhm,
But many times what we're talking about, right,
mm,
it's not something they can see, right, or register on a meter.
mhm, mhm,
We've talked a lot about, that power of healing.
mm,
And for me, in my language, and I think for you too, but in my language, I talk about my spiritual healing team.
mm,
For other people, that can really be, it can be a higher power, it can be God, it can be Buddha. I mean, it can be anything that they refer to it. Me, I refer to it as a spiritual healing team. And, even in my own life, I've had different illnesses that, and long-term illnesses, yes, colds, I can work on that too, but longer term, and I've shared with you, something that I'm very open about that, I had or have a brain tumor in my pituitary gland that had taken away my ability to produce human growth hormone. And human growth hormone is a really important factor for running our bodies. And so when this was discovered, the doctors, and I was at a very large pituitary center, that said, you're going to have to take this for the rest of your life. You have no ability in which to produce this. It's kind of like type 1 diabetes and insulin. Now, I'm not recommending anybody, go off their insulin. That's not what I'm saying. I just mean that in this journey, it was kind of the same kind of thing, different organ, different function, but it was kind of the same thing that I was not going to be able to do this. And I didn't have a new prescription, and I had been a few months without my prescription. And I went to a new endocrinologist, and said, "Hey, I need this. I've been a few months without this, and I'm really afraid of what's going to happen." So she said, "Well, we have to run tests, just to kind of know where you are, know what the dosage needs to be." And they did all the tests. I came back about a month later, and she said to me, "Well, I don't have any medical explanation for you, but you don't have this issue anymore. You just don't have it. It's healed." And I said, "Well, you may not have an explanation for me, but I do." Um, and she kind of rolled her eyes a little bit and said, "Oh, because you prayed." And I said, "No, that isn't my belief. It's not about prayer. It's about my spiritual healing team." I said, "And it's okay if you don't give credence to that, right? It's okay because I know that the work that I do with my spiritual healing team, that what it does." And I could give so many examples of other people that I've worked with, right? In healing their illnesses, their animals' illnesses, just all kinds of things. Um, because a spiritual healing team is powerful. I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but that's just one example, right? Of when we're working with in a professional setting, with persons who live in their left brain, right? Their analytical brain. It's really hard to get into our right brain and say, "Wait, there's more to this. There's more to this," because our left brain makes us need to understand every single thing that happens. And when we decide that we can be bigger than that and that we can go beyond that and we don't have to understand everything, a whole new world shifts, right? It opens up. So I'm excited. I'm sure you have some things to add, and I'll let you do that.
Yes. And I have also had experiences of healing a little bit different, but either way, I think I was thinking about what the commonalities can be because our individual experiences, beyond the physical human experience are vast and varied, but it does seem to pretty much always require going beyond that left brain mind aspect. And we humans, we are taught from the time we're little in many cultures, not all cultures, of course, but for those of us who do feel like we need to understand or we need to solve our problems from logic or going outside of ourself, and it's of course important and necessary a lot of times, to go to get, consult with people who are the so-called experts. But many of us have done that, going through all the steps, medically speaking, I'm talking, not getting any relief and wondering, why am I not getting better? Or being told, like you said, it isn't going to get better. It's just such and such, and you're going to have to live with it. And those of us who might have that spark or something that's like, no, there has to be more. And we may not even know what it is. And I love
Mm.
how you have that knowing. And I'm in the realm, right? We're all in our own different places. I know that there's more. I know that I'm now part of a co-creative experience of me, whoever I am. And even if I don't know who or what is there for me, when we say the word no, that's beyond belief. And beliefs are so darn powerful, because if we believe in that it has to be measured, it has to be reproduced, it has to be logically explained, that's all fine, but it limits us. And we're talking about going beyond to the infinite possibilities for our human experience, because we're human beings. And I love the experience of like experiencing expanded consciousness,
Mhm.
which always requires going beyond this. And we know, right, about the resistance within our own human experience to those very possibilities. And we're ready, and whatever it is. And we're obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, but I'm going to say we are not here to tell people you're doing anything wrong. There's nothing wrong that you are living your life as a human that might even put their trust in whomever with
Mhm.
regard to, but people wouldn't be drawn to this channel or to this conversation if they weren't already somewhere in the realm of being curious or feeling like they know that there's more. And we're coming at it from backgrounds in mental health and all of that, and as well as beyond, through the blending and offerings, because it's really common that people either on the spiritual side and they're all this woo woo, and I love it, I eat it all up, but a lot of people that turns them off. And so
Yes,
we're trying to be like practical. We might could say we're being somewhat logical and rational, but then also going, and there's also so much more. And if you choose to, open up to what feels right and good for you right now. But
absolutely.
all of this to empower people. We want to
Ab-
empower people so that we don't, I mean, because really, what are we left with? Being powerless, helpless.
Mhm.
And if we put all our trust in one person, like
Mhm.
let's say we've been saying the medical example, and they tell us sorry, there's basically no hope.
Mhm.
And then what happens? I've certainly heard of many, many examples of people actually dying when they thought they were, but they actually were healthy. It's like, whoa, like, how do we explain that?
Absolutely.
Power of belief, and then our cells are going to follow suit because we are that powerful in a
Absolutely. I think,
beautiful.
I
Go ahead.
have to make in the mental health realm, right? Like I have to make a
Yes,
comment here because I think
yes.
it's so important to say. And I think it's important for clinicians to understand the power of their diagnoses, the power of their words when they're working with clients. Because, I used to many years ago, because I didn't have other words to put to it, I would always say, well, if I tell somebody this, they're going to live up to this. And not that it's living up, right? Because it's not. But that was the way that I could relay it. Like, if I diagnose this person, and this isn't across the board, let me just say that. But but if I run the chance of,
Mhm,
if I diagnose this person with bipolar,
mhm,
that they're going to envelop the diagnosis, right? Like, and become the diagnosis. I saw it happen more times than I even care to explain. And without revealing something about, I have several children. Let me just start there. But one of my children, when they came to me, had been already diagnosed with some things. I chose as a mother, as a professional, to not tell them what they had been diagnosed with. And the other thing was in the realm of IQs, was in the lower average, not below average, but in the lower average. And I did not tell them this. And I don't want to be specific because I don't want to really reveal for someone else, one of my children, who it is and what it was. But they climbed to heights intellectually that far exceeded this number for this IQ. And that's why, one of the reasons, and we've talked about this a lot, one of the reasons why I really have stepped out of that traditional therapist role is because of boards and insurance companies and things saying, you must do this in order to treat this person. You must diagnose them with something. You must, and in my career, when I was doing that straight practice, it never felt good to me because I really felt like I am writing a lifelong thing for somebody that no matter how much work they do, they're still going to see this diagnosis, right? And it didn't feel right to me because I really believe, and nothing on the plane of pull yourself up by your bootstraps or anything like that, because I don't believe in that, right? But I do believe that what we feed to our mind is what we will be. And one of the things when I was working with therapy clients before I shifted into really just more spiritual coaching was I talked about these two banks in our brain, right? And I very simplistic, we had a positive and a negative bank in our brain. And the problem with this positive and negative bank was that it would take 100 positives to erase one negative in our brain. 100, like think about that, like 100 positives to erase this one negative. And so what happens to us as human beings, right, when we are fed all of these things, whether it be diagnoses, whether it be, talked down to by another person, by a parent, by you're never going to amount to anything. You are not going to get here. You're not going to be there. Obviously, I spent lots of time in actual therapy working on these kinds of things with people because we all experience it. Maybe not to the same degree, but we have had somewhere in our life where somebody has tried to fill up our negative bank and not our positive bank, right? And I really worked on the power of tossing out that negative bank that came from other people, right? And for us to work up, filling up our positive bank because it made such a difference. Made a difference in our outlook. It made a difference in our health, our physical and mental health, not just mental health, our physical health. Because, we can say that science has proven when we are healthier mentally, we are healthier physically, right? And we know that trauma in and of itself can cause a host of, of physical ailments. So this is all proven by science.
Right.
But what we also know in a big, expansive, more expansive place
Yes.
is that just like those who created those conditions to make us ill, whether that be mentally, physically, whatever, emotionally, just like that, they created this environment. We can create an environment that cancels that out. And we can cure ourselves from physical ailments when we cancel out that negative bank. That is literally an across the board, whether you are spiritual or not, that is within our power to do that.
Yes.
And I feel so passionate about that. And if we think about our day to day, on the days when we are filling ourselves with recognizing the small little positives,
Mhm,
with celebrating the small little wins,
mhm,
we
mhm,
have a better day.
mhm, mhm,
That's just a short little example. Imagine
mhm,
if we harness that power
mhm, mhm.
and had it all the time. Like, I don't even have it all the time. Like, I want to be clear, like, I'm human, right? I don't have it all the time. But if we truly harnessed it, and we made that positive bank overflow, just overflow all over the place, not only do we create such a positive place for our internal and external self, it filters out into everybody else, just like the energy conversation we were having about
Right.
how when we're holding hands and then somebody disconnects,
Mhm,
what we radiate from us
mhm.
will radiate to other people, whether that's good or bad.
Yes.
And I think these concepts are the basic
Mhm.
bottom line concepts to
Yes.
where we're going to go in conversations, right? The importance of understanding whether you want to tap into spirituality or not. It's okay.
Mhm.
These concepts can lead to healing, whether you completely take out the spiritual realm of it. Just these practices, these basic practices, can lead to a transformational place.
Right. And harnessing, cultivating the truth of what we are.
Mhm.
Because if we believe everything you just said with regard to what we're told, what we're taught, that's all coming from the outside.
Mhm.
When we access all that we are, the power that's going to flow from belief and into knowing, we get to choose. So, this conversation about positive experiences and negative experiences and how we be so focused on the negative that we can cultivate so much more of the positive in our day-to-day life. It takes intention, takes awareness, and we are here to kind of have more of these conversations because we're all dealing with this every day. Every day. Like just because we're talking about how we might have had some, whatever we want to call it, expansion and shifts and all kinds of things, it still comes, I can say, into my daily life every day. My mind and that habit that goes to that. But now I have so much awareness that I'm like, there's any number of things I can do, be with myself, whatever it is, to shift that energy to get into more of where I'm at right now in that positive. Because it's not about shutting down all the negative, and we'll talk more about that later, but really being in all those options and all those possibilities that we get to choose and create. So whatever
Absolutely.
else you want to add to that as we're going to kind of close up, whatever you would love to add and share about that. Yeah.
I do think that there is a place for, and I don't like the word negative, but there is a place for those questioning like, oh, when I had this interaction, did I behave in my highest self? So yes, and I know we're
Mhm.
going to get into that, right? But I just wanted to add that little tidbit to that. But it's really important that we are finding those little things in our daily life, that makes a shift, right? It makes a shift when we recognize, I try to even, I am not perfect. I feel like I have done all kinds of expansion in this lifetime, but I also know that it's a continual journey and I
Mhm.
have to catch myself every single day. But I do really try to practice things like when I have all green lights on the way to work. That's a
Yes.
blessing. Thank
Yes.
you, because I hate red lights, right? Like,
Yes.
so for me,
Yes.
I mean, some people might like the stopping. I don't know, but I do not. So when I have every green light, I'm like, look, this is my day. This is
Yes.
a great day, right? So it is things that are that small
Mhm.
that when we're recognizing them, they can make a whole shift in our day.
Mhm.
Um, so that's really what I would add. I would love for people, if you have questions or comments or anything you'd like us to talk about coming up in future um, shows, that please drop it below. Share with your friends if you want to. We really want to keep bringing you content and really bringing you conversation, because this isn't
Mm,
content. None of
thank
this is written out. This just flows the way it flows and
yes.
where it goes.
So,
So grateful for everybody who's listening, and grateful for you, Stacy, and our connection and just our conversations. They are a joy in my life, and
oh,
they help me to hold positivity for sure.
oh, same for me. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.